Hello, my name is Pamela Stokes Eggleston, and welcome to You Good, an engaging podcast that delves into the realm of Black wellness. I'm joined by my co-host, Oneika Mays, and together we welcome you to the podcast, a space for meaningful conversations, fresh perspectives, a place for us. The You Good podcast is a love letter to our community and an invitation to connect, share, grow, and heal together. We're glad you're here, and we've got a lot to tell you.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this episode. When you texted me and said, let's do something on the oracles, I was like, oh, we can't even wait to record this. And you're in Sedona.
I'm in Sedona. I was like, we need to talk about all the things. The oracles, the orishas, like we were talking about hoodoo last week and the effects of that, more of how we've had these bits of hoodoo in our own lives growing up without knowing really that that's what it was. You know, practitioners of wellness in the space. So I'm excited to have this conversation. We needed to do it.
I wanted to ask you what made you say like, Oneika, I want to do this episode? Was like, did you get a download or something? Like what happened? When you sent me that text, I just felt my whole body tingle. And I was like, yes, I don't know if something just happened to Pam, but this feels like a full body yes. And I want to have this conversation right away.
I've been trying to stay knowledgeable and sort of in balance with it without being dismissive of it. So regardless if it's quote unquote good, bad, or indifferent, I'm trying to stay in the flow of things as they unfurl in front of us. That's hard for me often. And so what I think happened was we have had many conversations that aren't being recorded. And sometimes it's just very small, like a little tweak of something I noticed at the grocery store or something like that, where I was like, I need to get back and tell Oneika, we need to do something about what things, tools, techniques that Black people have, Black Americans in particular, if we're talking about hoodoo, Black people across the diaspora, if we're talking about voodoo, vodun, Santeria, and have this conversation about African traditional, religions and other forms of spirituality that can help us through these times. I think based on how we're moving, your work with churches in New York City and things like that, I feel like we're at a precipice point. I feel like there's a convergence happening. So I think there's a convergence of I love Jesus, and I also use these herbs to heal my mind. I think there's a convergence, and I think it's been happening, but it's visceral, I feel. And also, I think once that convergence happens, and it'll be choppy and messy, then there will be coherence. I don't know what the coherence will look like. I don't know when that's going to happen. But right now, there is no coherence. We still have Black people saying yoga is demonic.
Right.
So there's the convergence of these different belief systems that can be complementary, but we're not at the coherence point. And I think we can strive for that.
Yeah. I mean, when I was at Rikers, I can't tell you how many women wanted to work with me, wanted to do meditation, but wanted to make sure that working with me was not going to interfere with their faith, with their Christian faith. So I'm talking about Christian women here. And, I heard that yoga was the devil. I heard that, this is going to open spirits and I shouldn't be doing this. And I had to have a lot of conversation. I even wrote about that with one woman in particular. Her name in the book is Liza. How when she first came to sit with me, she heard people had a good time doing meditation, but she was like, okay, now this isn't about the devil, is it? And we had to have a whole breakdown of what yoga is, what meditation is, and how both can exist, how she can be a practicing Christian and she can be doing yoga and she can meditate. When I first started working there, I would see her every week without fail, because we started doing a lot of visualization meditations together. And I was even using like a soundscape with her. And she was housed in a cell area. And so she had her own space, and she told me she would even go back and sit in her cell and do the visualizations that we were doing and imagine that, you know, she was eating like bonbons or something, and it would really like help her relax. And a lot of it, I think, is just conversations with folks. I hesitate to use the word education because I don't think it's about education. It's just about a conversation with folks. Anyway, she died when she was transferred to a prison. Yeah. That was the first time I cried at work. I had to go to the bathroom. We had looked her up because we wanted to see how much time she still had left. And then we just saw deceased, and it broke me.
Well, I know that you gave her the tools that she needed in that transition. I know you did. I know you did. And often I quote, I've said it when people have said to me, yoga's demonic, or I don't want to meditate. And I said, prayers when you talk to God, meditations when you listen to God.
Yes.
Right.
I say that a lot too.
I just say it a lot. And then there's a little ding, ding, light bulb moment for people. And often we're asking for stuff. You're praying because you want a car, or you want this, or you don't want this, or you don't want something. And often when you're praying against something, that's a whole nother conversation we could have. Meditation is, let me listen, let me receive, let me open up. That's also hard. I get it. Even if they don't fully receive it in that moment, you know, I think there's that light bulb moment where they can understand it. And that, to me, is the beginning of a conversation of convergence.
Yeah. People have asked me, like, is yoga my religion? And I say that yoga is my way of life. It's the way I live my life. And it's not something I do, right? I do an asana class, but yoga is far more than just, you know, the poses that I think people think of, you know, when they think about yoga. And we've had this conversation a lot. I think what's happened for me over the years, you know, it's no secret that I grew up in a household that my mom's an atheist. I say that my mom's the only practicing atheist I know, which is funny because she's far more spiritual, I think, than she pretends to be, and far witchier than she admits. And I think she honors ancestors on a level just with the way that she moves through the world and the way that she's raised us, her children, the way that she lives her life. But faith was something that I was unfamiliar with until I was an adult. Faith wasn't something, or a deeper connection to spirit is something that I wouldn't even admit out loud until I was a lot older, even though as a child, I had a lot of experiences with my ancestors talking to me and reaching out to me. And I knew I wasn't something I could talk about in my house because I think my parents would have punished me, or said not punished me, but said that I was making it up, or it wasn't real, or I was just imagining things. And now I realize I've always been connected. And I'm just glad I'm in a place now where I am able to listen.
Yeah. The listening is the key. You know, we can have like ancestor altars and all of these things. And I think people are starting to hear more things and see more things because of TikTok and Instagram, people showing their altars and shrines and stuff. They feel more comfortable with saying, okay, I'm connecting with my ancestors. Or if I'm in meditation and somebody comes through, that's okay. And it's also okay that you don't have to tell everybody that happened. You don't have to share that with everybody. Not everybody needs to know. And until we get to this level of you know, convergence or coherence, you know, we're still in the convergence. You don't have to tell anybody. you can keep that to yourself or tell people, your like-minded friends, hey, did you do this? You and I call each other or text each other, I had a dream about this. Or I'll reach out to my sister and say, I had this dream. And usually I reach out to 2 or 3 people to get
Yeah.
to get it to figure out what's going on. If my ancestors come through in my dreams, I definitely reach out. If these ancestors are matrilineal and they're trying to tell me something, I'm definitely writing it down. I'm waking up and writing it down. I don't care if I'm tired, because there's something there. And I've never been steered wrong when I've done that. Never. So I and really, I think I didn't start doing that until I was an adult, until I started getting into yoga, which is weird because they weren't teaching, ancestor veneration in yoga. I was in a spiritual place of exploration. And I was noticing then that how yoga was affecting me, even if I was going to an asana class, was more than asana. Why am I crying in shavasana? Why am I still kind of feeling floating through after the class? Or you know what I mean? Because there was times of contemplation in the class, even though it was mostly asana or there's a little bit of breath work, right? So for me, it kind of slowly went in that direction. And I think when my mother died in my 20s and then my grandmother died just a few years back, by the time my grandmother died, I've had that relationship with my mom and with her relatives. And so by the time my grandmother would pop up in my dreams, it wasn't a biggie. It wasn't a big deal. And every once in a blue moon, my grandfather shows up, which it's blown my mind because he's just very kind of reserved and different in that way. But I pay attention, but I understand other people who are in the convergent space in their own lives, in their own families and friends. If you're part of a church and this stuff is happening, you don't, and that's your community. How do you share this?
Yeah.
I remember going to church years ago. My parents were like, you should be able to question God. You should be able to ask questions. That higher power does not mind. You should be inquisitive, curious. These are things we learn in yoga anyway.
Yeah.
And I remember asking, what do you think about numerology? This Bible study. And he was like, well, it's wrong or whatever. And I said, okay, 40 days. And then I started, and I don't know the Bible like that. But I started listing all the numbers, 40 days, 40 nights, 7 days, 7. I just started listing all of the numbers. And I said, so is that an accident or is that not coincidence or what is that? Is that happenstance? I don't think so.
Right.
He said, well, I think people get too carried away with it. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? See, that's, if you're going to say something, you need to follow it up with an explanation. Too carried away. So there's numbers in the Bible, but numerology, it gets too carried away. Where do you think it comes from? Some of this stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like people getting messages in their dreams, right? Once in a while, it's okay. But then if you rely on your dreams as a way of communication, people tell you that,
Right.
you're starting to get into like new age stuff. But my dreams have always been a powerful vehicle for me to process what's going on in my life, to communicate with my ancestors, and to communicate with people who transitioned. And I'm going back to when I was a kid. I remember having experiences of people coming through. I remember having really vivid dreams that I knew I needed to listen to. And then as an adult, when I spent a lot of time in therapy after struggling with mental illness for a while, and I would talk about my dreams, and I'll never forget, there was one dream, I got a message in my dream, and I was talking to my therapist about it. And my therapist was great. I really liked my therapist. And she didn't really say anything. And then the next week, she said that she contacted, I guess, the person that she did, her supervision with, to talk about my dream because, and this isn't a secret, I just come out of being in a mental hospital for a while. And she was worried because of what I was talking about in my dream. And her I guess her supervisor was like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I was really terrified and stopped talking to her about my dreams because I communicated of what was happening in my dream. Was she going to like say that I was sick again and needed to be back in the hospital? And even those kinds of things I find really concerning, that people have ways that they communicate, they get information, and if it's not considered viable or valid or respected, it can be used against you to, you know, incarcerate you to some degree.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So people have their own, you know, lines of demarcation about what's too much.
Up to this point, it's okay.
Up to right.
But over that line, I'm calling somebody and I'm going to put you away.
Right.
Yeah. But young doing it, young talking about the unconscious, totally fine.
Right.
Jungian dream analysis, that's okay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy to me. I mean, because that's where Carl Jung's getting it.
Right.
Or got it. So it's like when we talk about that, and then we talk about how we grew up, you know, my mother was not an atheist, but my mother was like, don't have an open umbrella in the house. Don't put the hat on in the center of the bed. Don't split the pole. Don't. I had my dad on New Year's Eve go outside, walk outside the house and come back in, because it's good luck to have a man years.
Wow.
My dad did it religiously every year until my mother wasn't here. I don't know. He might still do it. I don't even know. I need to ask him. But he did it. He didn't like, this is, I don't even understand this. You know, he was obedient.
He's here to do it.
He did it. Okay. And, you know, there's some things you just have to know who you with, who you're dealing with.
Or New Year's Eve traditions.
Black eyed peas.
Black eyed peas. My mom.
Green.
We still have it.
We still have it. Well, ask your mom? The black eyed peas is what? And the greens is for the money. Right.
They're for the money. Yep.
Right. And so, and you have a
black
little
eyed peas are for good luck. Yep.
You do all of that. And so I think it's a wonderful thing. And I never said to my mother, well, that's the Gregorian calendar. What about the other? I never said that. Okay. I was like, let's just do what we got to do. We could get this good luck where we're going to get it, you know? And she taught me a lot of stuff. I understood that, you know, my mother really was good at growing plants. Ooh. I got that from her. I mean, I fell in love with it, and she'd be like, water my plants or whatever. And I'd be like, okay. And then sometimes, like, African violets, depending on where they are in your house, are kind of hard to grow. And I remember letting 2 or 3 of them die or something happened to them, and but we got them back. She got some other ones, and we just kept growing. And to this day, I don't mess with African violets. I you know, I stick with the golden pothos, or, you know, I have aloe. My love for plants started, and I think my mother recognized it when I was a child, and we lived in DC, and I've told you the story where in the country, and I got all these beans. I got these seeds for butter beans and lima beans. So I planted them, you know, outside where we were living, and I would just go outside and be excited. You know, I think I was 5 or 6. I can't remember, but I remember this distinctly because the next day I went out where I had planted them, and it was gone. Cut my lima beans, and I still remember that feeling like, this is horrible. And I remember, you know, my mother was like, it's okay, you know, whatever. But when I tell you I was crushed, and I'm not surprised why I grow herbs and vegetables and plants now. When you do something, when you put something in the dirt, in the dark, and then you see that it's working in the dark, but you don't see it, and then you see a little green sprout, and then you keep seeing, you're like, oh, it's just it's the most magical thing you could ever do. Magical. And so I love growing herbs, and I use herbs in different concoctions. And I think part of that is root work. Why am I growing yarrow? You know, why am I growing aloe vera? which I use if I cut myself or whatever. Why am I growing sage, oregano, lavender, which I have all around my house? Why am I growing these herbs?
Or simmer pots.
Simmer pots.
I started doing that before I even knew what it was. It was just I just would feel called to put things in a pot and cook them. And my cooking is spell work. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing with cooking as spell work until I started to research it. And my pull to certain herbs and spices.
Right.
And it really blew me away. And I was like, but this history is inside me, whether I know that or not, that it's there, and that we practice so we can listen more. And sometimes I feel called just really early in the morning, just before I even know what I'm doing, I'm pulling things and putting them in a pot and turning it on. And I would first start researching after I did it. I would put all these things in and then research, well, why would I do that? Why did I pull that? And realize, like, oh my gosh, I am pulling time for, to be more in touch with psychic powers. I am putting in a bay leaf to bring abundance into my life. I am using citrus for a certain reason too. And it really, it was affirming for me. So affirming, like, oh, okay, this is who I am. I'm just getting more in touch with who I've always been and people before me.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, they have these fancy names for these things. Simmer pots. I was like, I'm just putting stuff in a pot to water my plants.
Yep.
Right.
Or to bathe with. Right. So I think these things are inherently in us, and we often turn them off. And that's to me the detriment. We turn them off because we've been conditioned that we need to sit in a building every Sunday for however long, and that's the way to connect to divine source. And I think that is a way. You can have several ways. So they're hoodoo women who go to church every Sunday. There's that convergence there, right? It's not a thing where we have to separate these things, or where you can't use this one herb or this other herb. Oregano oil is good for that, Yep.
So I like to make my own concoctions instead of buying them, like a lot of people buy them. Sometimes I buy them, but I like to take the time and put an herb in the oil and let it sit for 6 to 8 weeks, and then use that oil. Get some stuff out of your yard, and put it in some olive oil and keep it moving, or some avocado oil, some kind of, carrier oil that's good for your face and body, and let it steep. You can do it over the stove. You can do all these things. I like to follow. Her name is Dr. Sunyata Anmin. She says she's a kitchen witch. So I think you're like a kitchen witch.
Oh, I definitely am. And I think that also comes from, I was raised by my mom in the kitchen, which is interesting because it's different than my sister was. But I was at my mom's side when she was cooking, and she'd call me into the kitchen to tell me how to make what she was making. And I love to cook. I love to put things in a pot. I love to taste things. I love to work intuitively. And I'll follow a recipe if I'm trying to bake something, but we know that my baking is a work in progress.
I mean, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Oneika.
Because I always like to stray. I'm not somebody who likes, I like to stray. I like to explore. And sometimes it's me, but sometimes I'm pulled. I'm literally pulled to pull something, to grab something, or to use something. But kitchen witch, bathroom witch, water is, and it's funny because I'm an earth sign. But
you got some water in the
Pisces moon. And I really like that. I like being in the bath is really important to me. Using things in the bath or in a shower is a big part of my ritual. And it has always spoken to me. I just didn't have language for it when I was younger.
Yeah. I think these new age terms, I used to walk barefoot outside.
Oh yeah, now we call it earthing.
Grounding, earthing, or whatever, earthing. I'm like, oh God. I was doing that when I was a child. I would just have to limp for a couple of days.
Right.
But you know, where people are running to emergency rooms and stuff now. I stepped on bees 2 or 3 times. I always walk barefoot. I still do this. This could happen. I'm like, and I do sleep better when I walk barefoot in grass, and also when I'm outside in nature. So yeah, I think the term witch is coming back. It had some negative connotation.
It really
but
did have negative connotations.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, all the women on the maternal side of my family are witches. I mean, and have been. I mean, and we all are, but I think the way that it's been expressed, just how specific some of the women are tuned into their gifts, whether it's through art or decorating or cooking or music, deeply connected to a way where people say about like relatives, like they're special, and not because it's necessarily the talent. It's just because I think it's the way that they're connected and tuned in.
I agree. I think, yeah, if you have some of those gifts, and I think that's where some of our misery comes, is because we've been told you need to suppress that and not follow that path. You need to suppress it and be doctor, lawyer, engineer. You need to suppress, which you could do those things and do the thing, right? But you need to suppress this because what are people going to think? We're always concerned about what someone else is going to think instead of what the hell we think. What do you think? And do you feel more happy or less happy because you squashed this thing that was in you that was weird, that was quirky, that was different, because you didn't know who to share it with? Maybe you didn't have a community to share these things with. You and I have community to share the weird, quirky things with, and we can banter back and forth. We can talk about different things and different movies. And you know, what are we are we witches? Are we root workers? You know, I feel like I'm a root worker. I am intuitively like, what kind of herbs from my garden?
Like, root working is making things, and I think I would consider myself more of a witch than a root worker, because I'm not making stuff. I'm definitely more of a kitchen witch, because the things that I make, and food, I seek my healing through food that I'm eating, and really connecting with that, and bathing.
And bathing. I do the same, eating, bathing. But I love to be in my garden. I'm already thinking about, okay, when I get back home, like, what am I going to go to the nursery to purchase? You know, like my oregano, and I used to have oregano bushes. Like, when I tell you, they look like shrubs for years. And one of them, this weather's been weird. This is how I know we're in climate catastrophe. One of the bushes died completely. It's like obliterated. Wow. One of my lavender bushes died completely obliterated. So, but I put some more in. And so I'm looking at this other lavender bush, and it's trying to come. It's trying to, but we've had a couple of frosts, and I'm like, I will get some more oregano, because I have not. If you're growing this and you're going out and you're talking to your plants like people do, and then you're like, okay, what is the best carrier oil for this? I'm going to make my own version. I don't have, I use oregano oil that I made, but it's not essential oil. I'm just like, well, maybe I'll make a less assaulting oregano oil with avocado oil or something like that. And that's what I do, and that's what I travel with. And that's a little bit gentler for me. That was intuitive. That was for me. Oh, I'm gonna make this. Nobody said you can. Nobody told me I couldn't do that. I do that to protect myself from getting colds and things like that when I travel. So it's that. I also love to do the things in the kitchen. I also love to talk about dreams and things like that. I also have these insights in meditation. So it's all of those things.
Oh, let's talk about that, insights during meditation, because I know we both are meditation teachers. And when I was at Rikers, a lot of people, I think because they're looking for ways to not be there, wanted to ask questions about like astral travel or psychic powers or all of these things. Cause there's just, and I'm sure you got the same thing too. People are looking for that that magic. And sometimes I think they were looking for a quick fix for something. And there's a difference between, I think, all different kinds of meditations and practices, right? Like I have a mindfulness practice that I do to sort of ground myself to be in the moment with whatever's going on. I'll do metta for a particular reason. And sometimes I sit specifically to listen to my ancestors or to receive a message. I do a meditation and talk to the tree that I have up there. You know, I talk about this a lot. And there's a moment when I can actually hear trees say, you need to go sit down inside. And so I have a meditation chair that I go sit in because it's time for me to listen in a different way. And where I'll be taken somewhere. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about that I didn't talk to you about before we recorded. There, for a period of the past few months, my meditations have felt very distant and flat, and where I would sit before, and my ancestors would come and take me somewhere, and I could feel like myself getting buckled up, and I would go through like a wormhole, and then I'd be taken somewhere. A lot of times, and I was talking to somebody about this who was giving me a reading, I'm taken deep down into the earth. I mean, I don't mean just underground. I mean deep underground through a tunnel, and then I end up in a particular world where the cliffs of this place are higher than anything I've ever seen in my life. And that used to happen regularly. And I would even ask, like, why am I supposed to be here? And sometimes I would get answers, and sometimes I'd be told just, you know, to shut the F up and just be there.
Right. Just be.
Just stop asking so many questions, Oneika, and just let us take you where we're taking you. For 2 months, it all went away. And that's what I just got used to expecting, because that's how it would happen. For the past few months, though, nothing. I would sit and nothing. And I got afraid. I was like, oh my gosh, are they gone? But I knew they weren't gone, right? Like that was just my fear brain, my lizard brain talking to me. And then I realized that maybe I'm supposed to be listening in a different way. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to have faith, and I'm just going to listen in a different way. And I started going to my altar more to meditate. I was meditating in different places because I just felt called to be listening in a different way. And I was like, okay, this is what faith is, not knowing.
Right.
And then yesterday, I'm going to try to say this without crying. Yesterday on the subway, music was playing, and I closed my eyes for a second. And the whole thing just came back. And I heard them say, see, we told you just had to listen. It was astounding. I was on my way to Abyssinian when this happened. I had to stop. I had to stop myself. I was like, you cannot mess up your makeup. But it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. I said it out loud, and I know people were looking at me at the subway like I was, you know, I had lost it, because I kept saying, thank you, 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 thank you. Because I was like, this is true faith, because I was sad that I didn't do that anymore, but I wasn't worried. And there's a difference. Like I was grieving, but I wasn't worried, but I just knew that I had to just keep listening. And then this thing just lifted. And then I realized, like, you'd been striving too much. You'd been in this masculine, like striving, grasping, and maybe it's not divine masculine, whatever, binary stuff. Fight me later. I know they call it divine masculine energy, but it was just striving and reaching and trying to manifest too much instead of yielding and surrendering. And I don't mean that in an oppressive sort of way. I mean a flow state, allowing things just to come, and acknowledging that. And the alignment that I felt in that moment was, it's still here. I'm still in it, because I realized a lesson that I was supposed to be learning, because I am so freaking hard-headed. I'm so stubborn. And it takes me forever. When I got home, when I'm in one room, I could hear them talking in the other room. And I used to have that all the time, because sometimes I would come I would be upstairs on the deck, and then I'd come downstairs, and I'm like, what is all that noise in the living room? And no one's there. And I know it was just them talking, and they had stopped talking for so long. But yesterday I could hear them chattering, like, she finally got it. Like, we never thought she was going to get it. She's so hard-headed. Like, and I could hear them like laughing about it.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
So that's my story.
Gift. You know, I think profound happenings occur when you let go. The saying is let go and let God, but that is faith, right? And when you have had these experiences and you believe, and like you said, you weren't like scared that they weren't going to come back, but you were just kind of sad in that space of time, those months where you weren't having those experiences. I think that tells us to sit and be patient and to tap into the flow state. When I was teaching yesterday, I was saying, I go with the flow. Like I had a plan. I had things written out. Who showed up in the room is who's going to dictate what this experiential workshop is going to look like, and what we're going to talk about, and how we're going to talk about why we're so tired, and grief, and what we're grieving in these times, these post-COVID times, really, what we're striving to do. Are we striving too much? Are we striving too much in the wrong direction, which is often the case?
Yes.
You can do what you need to do to pay bills, and you need to be looking at what is calling for your joy to emerge, your full joy. What is in your soul, in your spirit, that is calling for something deeper? Did you suppress it because your father was like, you need to suppress it, because they didn't encourage you, because you had friends teasing you, right? So we have to return to these things for the world to get better. Your mother passed down to you. We need to return to whatever root working practices that
Listening
were
practices.
past, these listening practices, this sitting still, the meditation. And what I shared in my workshop was that my grandmother used to sit in a rocking chair and hum, and my mother would sit and say, I'm resting my eyes. What is that?
It's meditation.
I'm resting my eyes. Meaning, leave me alone for a bit. Give me a little space here. My grandmother was humming as she was sweeping the porch, which I let her do, because I realized, because of my yoga background, it's somatic work
and nervous system regulation.
Nervous system regulation. Yep. Okay. Yep. So I'm going to let this happen.
My mom irons, and I know that's when my mom irons. She I don't even know what stuff she even takes to the dry cleaners, because she irons, and it's a ritual for her.
Wow.
Like it's this whole thing, and it's, the room that she irons in. And it's just this thing. I mean, she irons her sheets.
You know what? I need to bring all of my clothes, because I can't stand ironing.
And
I can't
it's
stand
so funny when I tell you the way that my mother taught me how to iron. It was, I thought, like, who gets this intense about ironing? But it wasn't about the ironing. And I've seen this now.
Right.
It's about what the ironing represents. When I tell you, I know how to perfectly iron the way that I have to twist a shirt around, and the collar, all of the things about ironing. Do I do this? No, because that's not my thing. But for her, you can see it. Like, I was just at her place in Savannah. She's got 2 irons in this 2-bedroom. Why are even 2 irons necessary in this place? It's a ritual with her. It's a calming. It's a settling. And that's beautiful. People do that. Some people, it's cooking. Some people, for me, I like to walk outside. Some people, it's bike riding, whatever it is, running, figuring out so long as there's nervous system regulation piece to it, that's good for us. But I feel like in this land of people co-opting everything,
everything now is nervous system regulation. Like everything now is, oh, we got to do this or we got to do that. I see people colonizing hoodoo, and I'm like, are you out of your mind? Figure out who your ancestors are and then go that path. But you know when that stuff started? When that lady was in some church talking about she was praying to African angels. That's when people thought they could tap in. And I said, okay, you're going to see how that works.
That almost came out of my nose.
I said, and people are like, oh my God, they're praying. You know, when I see stuff like that, I sit back and laugh. I said, let it happen. Because let them find out. What
happens when you're lost from your own culture? And I've had conversations about this. Part of the problem is that they're so disconnected from their own roots and from their own indigenous culture that it's not just the individual, but it's the entire lineage trying to claim something. And because they're so disconnected, they reach for something that they now think is spiritual, rather than doing the research and going back to where they came from to appreciate that they have their own culture and their own lineage that they can claim. Now, for those of us who look the way that we do, whose cultures are mixed, we can lay claim to that too. So anyway, I think that's what they're reaching for. They're lost and they're trying to find it, but rather than they're taking the quickest route, like what colonization did. Let's take the quickest route. We need something, we'll go take it from somebody else, rather than doing the historical work of figuring out, well, this is where I'm from, so let me connect with that, and let me find the healing that way too, right? Because it's healing.
It is. And my friends of a different persuasion who are tapped into their Irish culture, Celtic or Nordic culture, are doing that work. And it's
so powerful.
It is powerful when they work with that. But when you are calling in folks that you haven't connected with because of all the isms, then that's you're searching for trouble. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're doing all of these things that you shouldn't be doing. And I think that's how you get statements like, oh, we have something new called the cloud bob. I got jokes today. I mean, I was like, are y'all serious? What the hell is happening?
When I saw that, I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Or,
because it's just even one thing after another.
Or box braid, or even box braids.
Right.
Like
the braids.
Or braids. Bo Derek and, that movie 10 from the 80s. I'm really going back here for some people listening. You may not know what I'm talking about. But she was running on a beach. And in the 80s, Bo Derek ran on a beach with braids and beads in her hair. And white women all over the world started getting braids like she had invented this look.
Right. I mean, never mind.
People are talking about it now, but this has always been going on in pop culture. Like
no attributing.
Perms. Look at when perms became popular in the 80s. Tanning. I mean, all of it. All of these things are appropriation, and I think a searching and a longing to be whole. That's what I think it is. It's people searching for who they are, but they only associate spirituality with blackness. So that's what they glom onto, rather than doing that work that you need to do inside, right? Going inside and saying, where do I come from? Where am I from? Where is my culture? What has my culture done to other people? And how can I heal that by getting back to myself?
The performative nature of it. So for instance, remember how the word shaman, like it still happens.
Yeah.
But the word shaman
guru,
guru. So they're coming from these other brown, cultures. And people are just, anointed by the shaman. So now I'm a shaman. They went to Peru
it's the
and
lack
this
of seasoning Um, it's the lack of seasoning in their own culture, and it's so flat. You know, you go to their church and everybody's sitting still, and there's nothing that can happen there because
Mm-hmm.
it's flat, because it's been stripped of everything,
Mm-hmm.
because their culture has only been associated with domination and with taking things over. So if you're trying to get to a spiritual aspect or looking to God, there's nothing there anymore. And I'm talking about here in the United States. Yes, we could talk about other places, but I'm talking about here. And so there was nothing there. So if you're talking about folks who were wicked enslavers, the only spirituality that they had, because they had disconnected themselves from England, they looked to the people that they enslaved who had been able to hold on. So then they took that and put it into, their own Christianity. And that's where we get these evangelicals who, and Pentecostal churches, because they stole that from folks, Africans who were here. So I think it was the lack of seasoning, because they disconnected themselves from their own traditions.
Yeah. I think, because, in the United States, whiteness isn't a culture.
It's not a culture, it's a power dynamic.
And so you have to look at, but if you are Irish and you're tapping into your Celtic roots,
different.
That is different. So you have to look at that. I have friends who are Irish who are like, I understand when I show up in rooms that I am perceived as white because I am white, because that's what the people said. That's what was created. However, I'm choosing to move through life in an Irish way by celebrating in bulk, by celebrating, and I know about Irish culture because I have friends, who are actively practicing that culture. When they go worship, that's what they're worshiping. When they talk about the land of Ireland, that's what they're talking about.
They had their share of colonization too.
Absolutely. And to some of my Irish friends who were actually from Ireland, they were like, the folks here lost their way.
When you're completely disconnected from who you are, you think that everything's funny. And then you steal from other people, because there is still a part of you as a person who has a soul who is longing for connection, right? But so you grab it from where you think you can find it, because if you've also been socialized that it doesn't have to start with you, that you have been nurtured to reach, it's external, and you reach for everything, you never know to do the work inside.
Yeah. That's we are in the shit that we're in because people won't look inside. Or consider this, people have looked inside and there's nothing
there, but they don't know how to sit still long enough or to ask the questions like, why is there nothing here, and what can I do to get something here? And so they go outside to get the thing inside, rather than sitting still for even longer and saying, no, this is a problem. It should be connected to also what's happening outside. And am I like this because of the position that I hold in society? Am I like this because of society, because of privilege? And not just me, but my entire lineage. And how do I heal that? Not how do I make this feeling go away, but how do I heal it? We have been raised like this. Epigenetically, it's a part of us. Some of us have chosen to go outside too, which is why we're all on this path of healing. But I think ours is a little closer to us because of what we have to carry with our skin color and who we are in this country.
I agree with that. And I think that we can't run away from it. And some people try.
They try their hardest, but
and some people have succeeded. What did you have to give up to follow a path of whiteness, which isn't real? So how it's like how you show up, but you can't, there's not enough ayahuasca, shamanic ceremonies, mushroom purification ceremonies and rituals that's going to help you look at the stuff on the inside. So in this wellness space, all of these folks are doing all of this extra stuff. I need to go to Africa and have this experience. Who are your people?
Yeah.
Who are you connecting to? And like we talked about, my people are from the South. So I know that there's a connection. And my mother was practicing in the house. She didn't say that. There were things where she would say, we can't do this, and that's hoodoo stuff. Okay. So we grew up with that. And whether, we all subscribe to it or whatever, I left it behind for a while because corporate will suck the life out of you everywhere. And then when I was like, I got to leave this, or it left me, I'll say that, then I started these openings. I was getting whisperings of this, maybe you grow some herbs, maybe you do this. And when I had my apartment, I would have herbs. I'd have this thing over the banner, or a planter, and I had herbs in it, and the herbs were growing really well. I have a good hand for growing certain herbs. That's not even a flex. That's just, I know that's something innate, and I know that I can do it. So I do it because I've been called to do it. And also I use the herbs in my root work, I'll say, or my DIY, home remedies, or my cooking. I don't think you have to completely get rid of things, but I also want to say that you shouldn't, you shouldn't tell people what they're doing is demonic. You really need to sit back and just take a pause and focus on your own life, and not worry about, oh, she's putting her hands in dirt, that's demonic. She's over here doing a tree yoga pose, that's demonic. What are you doing that's demonic in your life? Hello. What are you doing judging people? What are you doing walking through life not helping people?
Yeah.
Okay, that's demonic. There's real demon action going on in this world. But you're worrying about me, coming into a headstand and doing some breathing.
Oh, I remember when people judge, when I judge, it is because I am afraid or unwilling to look at something inside myself. I remember, it's probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, I did a shoot for Jade Yoga, and I was at we went to the Statue of Liberty to shoot. I was in that headstand for almost a half hour. It was bananas. And
girl,
it was cold too. It wasn't even 50 degrees.
Listen.
It was freezing. Anyway, the point is that when the photo went up, the person who runs Jade Yoga was like, do you want us to tag you? Because they were going to put a message. This was after the first time that idiot was elected. And it was a whole message from Jade about being politically active. And that was going to be on for my month. And he said, you might get some flack. And the way people wanted to interpret the headstand, like I was trying to provoke something. I was on my head next to the Statue of Liberty, upside down, to give the middle finger to the United States of America.
Girl, that's deep.
I was like, God. Wow, you're really reaching. You know why I did a headstand? Because I knew it was something that I could hold for a very long time and get shot. Like, that's why I did the headstand. And you trying to tell me what I did was bananas. It was absolutely bananas. I did that because I've been doing a headstand since I'm 7, and I know how to stand on my head for a very long time. It's had nothing to do with yoga. This is a pose. Let's shoot this. I can just hang up here forever. You guys do whatever you need to do. And I wasn't making some sort of political statement. I wasn't trying to, channel a demon. I wasn't trying to give the middle finger to the United States of America. I just wanted to be on my head because it was easy to do. But that said everything about the people who were saying things and nothing to do with me. So I say all of this is because if you feel compelled to judge somebody's practice or look at what somebody's doing and say, this is what you're doing, I would encourage you to maybe think about, what are you afraid of inside? And what are you looking at inside that might need some attention, that might need some love, that might need some healing. And you might find the very thing that you're looking to, judge in somebody else.
Right. Agreed. Girl, I remember it was beautiful. It was a beautiful shoot. I didn't think that's deep. I didn't even get into that. And I think, people have their own, some scars, their own habits, their own, fears, cliches, they have their own shit that they bring to a thing, and then they feel like they have to be the keyboard police and type it under a post or whatever, when this was like, this is an ad. And responsible companies, we don't subscribe to this shit. And there are companies doing that. Yeah. And I also think there's a lot more kitchen witches and you know, people are like, let me get back to my ancestral ways of knowing. Let me get back in this garden in the kitchen. Let me put a journal next to my bed so I can tap into these dreams I'm having. I'm getting these downloads and be attentive, and let me pay attention to what's happening in my work environment, in my own community, in my friend circle. You know, just really focusing on those things will get us moving in the right direction. I think for some people it's moving slower, obviously, than we'd like, but we didn't create this mess in one day. It's an amalgamation of all the bullshit that racism, sexism, and then the audacity for people to steal, these African ways, and putting them in the churches and putting them on the cover of talking about the cloud Bob to consistently colonize things and not give credit. There's a difference between saying I have an admiration for this and I want to give credit for this person. Where Blakely, who we both follow on Instagram, who I love, he came up with slutty little glasses because Jonathan Bailey was wearing these glasses in that new Jurassic Park movie. People were starting to say slutty and not giving Blakely the credit. And Jonathan Bailey was interviewed and he said, oh no, there's this guy Blakely that's so simple to do. That wasn't hard. And it was in conversation and it was the truth. Right. So why is that so hard? Why
people do that all the time. I think I don't know if I've mentioned it here, but I had a yoga teacher, Yanni Chapman. I did my yoga for cancer and chronic illness training with her. She's no longer in her body, but she went on like a 15-minute rant about how when you're a teacher, if you're not giving credit for the things that you learn, or if you're quoting people and not giving credit, you are stealing. And you are harming the world by stealing. And I remember being so grateful that this white woman was saying that, because it is just absolutely true. And we see it all the time. And people are so used to stealing credit that they don't even realize that they're doing it. And they don't even realize that the harm that they're doing when they're stealing credit. And like quoting people and not attributing the quote to the person.
And then you think you look like somebody, and we know some people that are doing this in the wellness community that knows everything. This is not everybody knows everything. If I don't know the person to attribute a quote to, I will say that. But
somebody said, and I can't remember who.
Somebody said it, and
we say that all the time. Somebody said, and I can't remember who.
So I'm saying this, but I'm saying I got it because somebody else said this, and I want to impart this wisdom that this person shared.
For someone listening who wants to start to practice listening, what's one thing you think that they can do?
Is to, deconstruct your mind. So thinking about how you think about meditation, or how you think about a practice that's contemplative. If you're thinking you have to do 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening because somebody told you about TM and you have to do that, that is not true. What I have taught in several workshops, particularly working with military spouses and caregivers, is get it where you can get it. If you have a wounded warrior and 4 kids, you have to go to the bathroom at some point.
Yeah.
You have to take a shower at some point. If that shower is 5 minutes, you take a shower and be contemplative in the shower. What kind of aromatherapy can you bring in there? Can you sing? Can you hum while you're in there? You're sitting on the toilet at some point throughout the day. This is facts. You don't have to have a meditation cushion. You don't have to have a certain space. Now, as your practice grows, you can have that. And you can get, I like to say, tiny bits of joy. But these are what little tiny bits of time and energy and space can you afford to give yourself? Really, you should give it to yourself, that you can sit with yourself for, if it's 2 minutes, floor. I had a story from a caregiver whose kids were knocking on the door while she was in the bathroom. She was on, because kids do this, right?
Yeah.
I said, can you practice not being so annoyed with the kids when they're knocking on the door? So not even I'm trying to drop in. I just want to, so maybe I'm sitting in silence, they're knocking on the door, and you say, mommy will be with you in a moment, and they still knock. How can you practice breathing? And subsequently boundary setting. And then 2 minutes is up, and then you get up and you go attend to the child. But that child starts getting this. This is the benefits of, having that practice. You keep doing that 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. The child knows mommy's sitting on the bathroom floor or whatever, and you develop that. You develop it. So going back to my earlier point, if it is a minute, it's a minute. I think the mindfulness and meditation space is like, you have to do this, and you need all these products, and you have to have incense burning and candles burning. You don't.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. Yeah.
I like it. For me, it's the first moment of when I'm up is I just try to take that moment, right? You can,
Agreed.
even if you're woken up because you have to go get your kids, it's, you open your eyes, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. If that's all you've got, then that's all you've got. But if you are waking up every morning, right? And then if you're not, then you don't have this problem to worry about.
Right.
Then it's not your problem anymore. But the first moment that you open up your eyes, you can do that before your feet even hit the floor.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that I do that often because it's accessible.
It's accessible.
And then I often fit another practice in, but that's because I have a practice.
Well, so I'm just talking about if somebody's just trying to get started. Just
Yeah.
It's this. You measure that success in inches, not feet, and it's really small. Absolutely.
Agreed.
What about for someone who wants to start ancestral veneration? What does that look like?
I think I would say that a lot of us are already doing it. If you have a picture of your grandmother on the mantle, that's ancestral veneration.
There you go.
It's not this, oh, I have to have these rituals and I have to have an altar. If you have relics of your mother and grandmother. Now, what I do is, like, I wear my mother's earrings in my ears. So I wear something of my mother's all the time. And I subconsciously, before I knew what ancestral veneration was doing that. I wanted to be close to her. So I have some of her costume jewelry. I used to wear her wedding ring. What can you do? What things do you have of your ancestors that you can keep close to you? Or you can have a picture on the mantle. Or you can have, like, I have my grandmother's Bible. I have a scarf of my grandmother's that I wear. It's not hard. Sit in meditation with that.
I will, if I sometimes want to connect. I have on a necklace actually that is my dad. The silver ones.
Oh, okay.
This is actually my mom's ring. I like to keep them together.
Oh.
But I will listen to music is a way that I can tap in a song that reminds me of my grandmother or of my dad, and I can feel them instantly with that. So music will be my way in.
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. My mother used to sing favorite things to us. I immediately go, when I hear John Coltrane play it, I just am transported, Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. We're already doing it. We're already doing the things. We need to remember.
I love that. You always say the last thing that I want to end the podcast on. You always know how to do that. So I think that's a good place.
I didn't do it intentionally.
I know you don't, but you know how to wrap things. You wrap things intuitively.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for listening. And we will be with you again soon.
Take care.